Okay, hello everybody. Today's date is October 15th, 2021, and it's a little bit before or after 7 p.m. My name is Leslie Williams. I live in San Diego, California, in the United States, within the community of La Jolla. I'm a target victim and activist concerning the continued criminal expeditions of what is known as gang stalking. Now, my fellow American citizens, excuse me, please. What I want to do in this particular video series, which I'm going to title in my YouTube account, this will be at least a two-part video series. So the title of this video series will be Remote Neural Monitoring, Memory Mapping, and Stimulation, Gang Stalking Crimes. Now, one of the main reasons why I verbalize what the title will be at the beginning of my videos is because this crime is doing, this crime literally, it's gotten to the point to where my life is revolved around the crime. Excuse me. Which is actually the same thing that's going on to, to my fellow gang stalking victims in America. Tens of thousands of those are on the internet exposing this crime daily. And so, anyways, this is not a particular video. This video is not going to be about educating you about the crimes of gang stalking pertaining to the program as a whole. This video has got a specific subject matter: remote neural monitoring, gang stalking crimes, memory mapping, and memory stimulation. Now, in this particular video of this video series, I'm going to also include some statements that revolve around and have to do with the artificial electronic synthetic dreams that gang stalking victims endure. Now, you need to listen to me, and listen to me very, very, very carefully. If you've never heard of gang stalking or any of its, or whether you've heard of gang stalking or not, even if you have heard of gang stalking but have not taken the time to do an extensive research concerning it, and you're hearing some of my statements, you might think to yourself, what the heck is electronic synthetic dreams and remote neural monitoring? How could something like that be possible? This woman must be crazy. I'm out of here. You know, it's very easy nowadays for humans to dismiss things when they hear things that sound so far-fetched that there's no way at all. Trust me when I say, throughout my lifetime, I've done the same thing. In fact, check this out. When I discovered gang stalking by its name online on June 9, 2009, okay, within the first week and a half, because I discovered it on June 9, 2009, and then I immediately started massively, alright, hold on one more second. I apologize for the interruptions. I was having a problem with my flashlight. I started immediately extensively researching it because I had already been victimized through this crime in extremely heinous ways. And so I wanted to get, it was like Christmas Day as a child on June 9, 2009, in relation to how I felt mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The day I discovered the name of the crime, that it had already perpetrated extremely horrific, heinous crimes that I was enduring from well, let's just say through the time period of 2002 up into that date, even though the crime had been going on for years and many ways long before then, which is not uncommon at all. In fact, it's one of the biggest things victims eventually report, that when they realize that what they're enduring has a name, meaning that once victims find out what they're enduring is called gang stalking, and they get online, they start researching it, and then they also start cross-referencing the research data results to their experiences, and then as time goes by, it is not uncommon at all. I've seen it widely reported, okay, by many victims who have stated that as a direct result of the experience and the educated knowledge, they realized that the crime was already going on in their life long before the community-based gang stalking aspect of this crime started. That is a very common reality and experience of the majority of gang stalking victims. So the open gang stalking of me started in 2002 in Michigan. I've been gang stalked to 4 states, California, and that includes in multiple years, California, Connecticut, Tennessee in 2 separate years, and Michigan, back and forth to Michigan and in Michigan. So when you when I discovered gang stalking online on June 8, 2009, within the first day and 2 days of research, by June 13th, I had already come across the terminology of mind control, psychotronics, remote neural monitoring, and so on. And then I remember, serves me correctly, I'm like 99% sure, one of the main things that I was seeing right away on the internet that mind control was directly connected to voice to skull and voice morphine and remote neural monitoring. I immediately dismissed it myself. Okay, because I thought to myself, there is no way at all that could be going on. So I just kind of brushed it off and just figured maybe it was just people writing things because their trauma was so bad they couldn't figure out what was going on. But in the back of my mind, though, and my intuition and my instincts, okay, was telling me a lot different. Now, I'm not going to say if I was enduring any of the technologies that are reported by tens of thousands of victims all over the internet on every online platform that are widely reported to be used in gang stalking, which includes the aforementioned technologies that I just mentioned. I'm not going to state if I was enduring any of those technologies in Michigan before and after I discovered gang stalking online on June 9, 2009. But I guarantee you right now, I got indisputable evidence, visual evidence, physical evidence, that I am being subject to remote neural monitoring. So when you go into the YouTube account and you watch this video through, no matter on what date you end up seeing it, and you scroll through the videos, you're literally going to see videos showing the remote, non-consensual remote neural monitoring islands implants in my eyes, but they're not consensually. And in those videos, you'll hear me discuss how they were discovered and much more. So, when you hear people expose aspects of this crime and you hear them say specific things like, in case they might decide to use the terminology mind control and so on, a lot of people will just say, this isn't really a subject matter that interests me. Sounds too far-fetched to believe. These people must be crazy. Now, I want you to listen to me right now. The key to unlock the truth, just hear me out. Trust me, do not walk away from this video. The key to truth is by writing down our descriptions and keywording them in at Google and YouTube and research it extensively with a mature patient posture. Now, before you do that, you also need to know doctors, scientists, researchers, professors, and tens of thousands of educated gang stalking victims are all over the internet exposing these technologies. These technologies have also been widely exposed on national radio shows, including ones I've been on, and in a few minutes I'm literally going to play an audio of one of the widely known gang stalking targets, Michael Fitzhugh-Bell, who wrote the book The Invisible Crime. Okay, you're going to hear some of his statements as he's being interviewed on Coast to Coast AM international radio show. So, I've also been on national radio shows several times, those shows being about and reporting gang stalking. And so, to tie that statement up with a bow, consider this. The patents for this technology, the great majority of the technologies these filthy whores are using, is all over the internet. Again, scientists, doctors, researchers, and professors are exposing it. People who helped develop the technology, like ex-CIA scientist Dr. Robert Duncan, is all over the internet exposing it with other doctors and scientists. Okay, and even ex-NSA intelligence personnel is exposing it all over YouTube and Google. So you can't sit back and immediately say there's no way any of these descriptions are going on. There's no way that when you hear my descriptions within the detailed subject matter that I'm getting ready to segue into, there's no way you're going to be able to say that this is not going on, because consider this and consider this well. It is going on. Disbelief, ignorance, misunderstanding cannot take away, it can't even begin to chip away at truth. Truth exists in space and time. It's literally an absolute. Okay? So, just bear with me and listen to me carefully. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to play this segment of this audio file of this Coast to Coast AM interview, and then I'm going to make some comments on it. So, you ready? Here we go. Oh, hold on. Got to turn the tape recorder back on. All right, hold on a second. All right, so you ready? Now listen, and listen very closely.
The closer I got to actually, the more that you anger your perpetrators, the more you're doing well for yourself. The more they leave you alone is the more danger you're in. When you resist and effectively, you are punished for it. But you should actually take it as a positive thing, because otherwise they wouldn't do anything to you. If you're just going along with the program and going along for the ride, you're already going downstream. They don't have to do anything. It's when you challenge them and make it difficult for them that they try to hurt you or punish you or torture you to some extent.
Let's get into your dream state again and explain what they've been doing, how you think they do it.
Well, what they do is in the dreams, it's, you're very vulnerable when you sleep, and these dreams, they have the same scenario every time. You are the loser, you are the outcast, you are laughed at, you are taunted, you are chased, you've lost something you can't find. You put a set of keys down, and now for the rest of the dream you're looking for them. You know you just had them here, but now you're looking for them, and they just disappear. Whatever. It's always those same type of scenarios. And another thing that they do, another technique that they use within the dream, is to have other characters that are in the dream ask you questions.
In the dream?
Yes, they will ask you questions, and you are pretty much very submissive to that. You are very, they can extract whatever they want from you at that point. You have no guard up in your dream, and you may relinquish information you wouldn't normally relinquish.
Are they reading your dream state mind?
Well, they're doing that. They're monitoring the way you interact with the dream that they've set up for you, and simultaneously, while you're distracted with this dream in your mind, they are also doing something else, which is called, it's a type of hypnosis, and they are actually extracting memories and thoughts and the way you think from you while you're in this dream at the same time. And sometimes both. Sometimes they'll also be asking you questions during the dream, so you're not only being unconsciously being drained and unwittingly being drained of memories and thoughts and what actually makes you up as a human being, as a unique person, but they're also asking you actively during the dream.
Jeez, truly incredible technology. Where are they, Michael, when this is going on? Are they in a van outside your house, or what?
Well, actually, this crime is achieved today with the advance of technology. It's able to be achieved through a cell phone. So they can be up to several thousand miles away from you using the satellite system, going from satellite to satellite. When they hook up, they actually punch in a 10-digit number to get you. That's you. And then a different number for somebody else. And whoever is given access to this can hear what you're saying and hear what you're hearing and know your thoughts in real time. The computer grabs your brainwave and will be able to translate it into real words in real time. That's how advanced technology is.
Just remarkable. Now, you were talking about directed energy as well. What are they doing with that?
It's using the same system. It's using the satellite system and the equivalent to the GPS system with the cellular system and the satellite system combined. Because the cell phone is a satellite run or running on the towers, the cell towers.
Alright, sorry about that. Hold on a second. Let me back that up for a second, because I had to get up and do something, and the phone fell down, so bear with me a second. Sorry about that, folks. Alright. Alright, so somehow the video got... somehow the audio file got fast-forwarded all the way to the end, so... Alright, so what I'll just do is just discuss a little bit about what you just heard, and try my best to kind of fill in some holes in your, well, try my best to present a subject matter to you based on and around some of the things that you just heard. Now, pay attention very closely, my fellow American citizens. And I suggest you write these things down, too. Go to Google and type in a Google BCI implants, BCI brain-to-computer interface, remote neural monitoring, gang stalking crimes. Excuse me. Oh, pardon me. You can also go to Google and type in a Google remote neural monitoring, memory mapping, and memory stimulation. Okay. Remote neural monitoring, artificial synthetic dreams, and gang stalking crimes. And one of the things that I like to expose about these demonic rats, these totally filthy, criminally insane whores who are hosting this crime, is I like to expose the most sensitive shit that I know about these wild animals so they can be seen for what they are in the true light of day. They absolutely take advantage of and thoroughly enjoy their covetousness. So at any time, an educated gang stalking victim can stick it back to these wild whores, buying through exposure. Hey, baby cakes, there's almost nothing I enjoy more. So just hear me out. Now, so what I'm going to do for a little bit here is I'm going to discuss with you about how memory works. Okay. Now, and you can discover this for yourself as well. You can do some extensive research. And trust me when I say, if you take the time to do each little tidbit of research based on each description, you're going to be able to see how the data from each description correlates together so that you can see the pictorial representation in your mind concerning the subject matter. Because all statements are part of the subject, are part of the subject matter that is basically the picture of the puzzle. So the right and left temple of our head, a huge part of the area of the brain that's right underneath the right and left temple is dedicated to memory. And you should also know that our right and left temple is also dedicated to auditorial processing. In the back of our head, at the very bottom, the right and left cranium is dedicated to visual processing. Well, when we take a real strong look at what our memory is, and I believe there's a couple other areas around the head and the brain that are dedicated to auditorial processing and visual processing and memory processing. So just research the hell out of it. See, because if you take the time to do that extra research, you're gonna have a more ingrained, thorough understanding, so that when you arrive to your conclusion from the research in the way that I've already stated, you'll see a more densely concentrated pictorial representation in your mind, and then your mind is going to be blown. So let me give an example about how memory works and why it's so important in gang stalking crimes. So say you come home every day from work, Monday through Friday, and when you walk in that door, you set your keys down at pretty much the same exact identical place every time you come home. Most people do that so when they go to leave, they don't have to go looking for their keys. So say for 5 years in a row, every time you come home, you've set your keys down, like let's just say in an ashtray that's just dedicated for your keys and maybe some change out of your pockets. And then when you go to leave your house, then you go exactly right there to get your keys. So let's say just out of the blue on one day, 5 years down the road after doing that every time you come home, you forget to do it, and then you end up taking your keys out of your pocket an hour after you come home, and you end up setting them, let's just say, at the coffee table in front of your couch or anywhere else. Hold on one second. And then you go to bed. And then you eventually go to bed that night. You wake up the next day, and you get dressed, and you're preparing to leave the house to go to work, and then you go to get your keys out of the ashtray, and then you start thinking to yourself, why are my keys in the ashtray? And then you do those mental gymnastics of retracing your steps from the day before, and then you just all of a sudden realize that, oh yeah, I forgot, I put my keys on the dining room, on the coffee table in front of the couch. So you go to get them there, and they're not there. All right, hold on one more second. I apologize for these interruptions. Just bear with me a minute. I'm taking a break while I'm making this video, so I'm smoking my cigarette because my schedule's so congested. I make these videos when I'm in the middle of things that allow me to make them while I'm in the middle of things, so just bear with me. So you go and you look at the coffee table that's sitting in front of your couch, and they're not there. So what the brain is going to do, listen carefully, what the brain is going to do is it's going to do another memory, it's going to engage in another memory filtering, where the brain is going to sit back and it's going to say, okay, I came in the house yesterday, I know that when I woke up this morning and went to go get my keys, I went back to the spot that I always go to get them at. They're not there. So then I sat back and I said, okay, well, why aren't they there? Where did I have them last? And then that's when you recall the visual imagery of why you didn't put them in the ashtray on that day and where you ended up putting them, but they're not. And so you go there, but they're not there. So then what your brain will do is your brain will go back into review. Just like when you're driving a car and you look in your rearview mirror to see who might be behind you, so when you make that right or left turn, you don't get cut off or cut somebody else off. Okay, so your brain, what it will do when it engages in memory recall is that it goes back. If you can look at your memory as a Rolodex, it will go back and it will look at it will trace back your most recent steps related to the subject matter of what you're trying to access in your memory. Okay, so with this person, it just happened to be, okay, he remembers truthfully that he put them on the coffee table, but yet they're not there. So what that's going to do is that's going to cause that individual to re-access their memory bank, just like a Rolodex, where he's going to filter through a bunch of visual imagery, retrace and trace and retrace his steps concerning the day before. And then his brain, when his brain kicks him back to the same visual imagery of putting them on the coffee table, yet they're not there, the brain is going to then go back and search more memories, like the day before that, just in case, because the brain is trying to say to itself, okay, well, all right, well, I got a visual memory of this, but then the brain is getting tricked into believing, was it that actually done yesterday, or maybe the day before, or last week, and I'm just maybe kind of like fumbling around and don't really have not really gained the correct memory recall. Now that's what the brain will do, because the brain is looking for truth. Okay, and so the brain has got a hole in its memory bank because it's looking for something that's not there. And the reason why it's not there is because he did put the keys on the table. And so the brain is not going to be able to find any other place that he put the keys at, because there is no other place. But since the keys aren't there, the brain is being tricked into looking into other places. And so what it's going to do is it's going to filter through prior visual memory imagery related to at least the last 7 days. Okay? Now, what really happened here is that when he went to bed, the night that he put his keys on the coffee table, when he went to bed, gang-stalker perpetrators entered his home and took the keys with them or placed them somewhere else in the house that they know he'll eventually find within the next day or two. Like maybe, say when you come home or when you wake up in the morning, you make a cup of coffee, you know where your coffee maker's at, and you know where they know where your coffee cups are at in your cupboard. So what they might do is take them off the coffee table and put them in the cupboard, or they might put them in a place that he will regularly go by or frequents, like maybe somewhere in the bathroom, or maybe like on the floor in the closet where he puts his shoes at. Somewhere that he regularly frequents, because they still want him to look for the keys, but they're going to put him in a place to where he's not going to immediately look, because they need him to access his memories. Now, the reason why that's being done in the way that it's being done is because the psychotic rats, the criminally insane, filthy horrors who are committing this crime, are in his area. They're located somewhere physically around him, probably within 3,000 yards. Either in a nearby home, a nearby truck or van, with the equipment of remote neural monitoring. And so what they're doing in real time is monitoring his brain as his brain is filtering through these memory banks and visual images. And that is the purpose of why these filthy whores are breaking into victims' homes all over America every day. Every day, taking things, replacing them later, moving things around, because when something's usually in one spot and you go to get it and it's not there, you're going to think to yourself, why the hell ain't it there? And so your brain is going to immediately access that memory Rolodex so that your brain will review, okay, well, maybe I did put it somewhere else. And so the goal is to trick you into second guessing. And the only way that you can try and find something that you think initially that you misplaced is by going in and accessing that memory bank. And that's exactly where they want you, because what they're doing is memory mapping you as your brain is filtering through previous memories. It's the whole goal of why these sick, filthy whores are breaking into people's homes all over America, thousands of times a day, all over America, okay, and rearranging furniture, rearranging clothes, taking things, replacing them later. It's one of the main reasons why that specific technique is done. Google the hell out of my statements. So when you hear Mike Fitzhugh-Bell state that they created a artificial synthetic dream, see, in gang stalking, these wild animals, remote neural monitoring already enables them to monitor the entire neurological and biological system. And that includes whenever any feature or function of the brain is operating in those features and functions. When it's gaining an access to any specific feature and function of the brain and then utilizing those features, remote neural monitoring is monitoring the brain as the brain is processing and engaging in and working with features and functions of the brain. Remote neural monitoring, they monitor you neurally remotely, is monitoring your brain as you are engaged in all the different features and functions of, as you're engaging in all the processing dedicated to each feature and function. Emotions, thinking responses, neuronal processes, and your entire biological system, okay, as well. So, now, when you research remote neural monitoring, you're going to easily see that the auditorial cortex and visual cortex are the two main things these filthy whores, and please excuse my descriptive language, but I choose not to call these wild animals anything except for what they are. So I apologize if I'm a little bit too descriptive for your ears, but just hear me out. So when you research remote neural monitoring, you see that the auditory and visual cortex are some of the two, and memory mapping and memory stimulation, okay, and creating false memories through, which is related to the augmented reality and virtual reality, extremely sophisticated visual software that they have, which is as sophisticated as your best, the most expensive Hollywood movie out there, including to this date, which today's date is October 15, 2021, the best Hollywood production, the most expensive and best Hollywood production that's ever been made up to this date. When you go see a movie that costs $15, $20, $30, $50, $100 million to make it, their visual software is that good. And some of it's even better. We're talking about, what you need to understand here is that the military technology that is responsible for this sick shit is at least one whole generation ahead of the most sophisticated technology that is out on the market today. And trust me when I say there's extremely sophisticated technology that's out on the market today that the average American citizen doesn't even have a clue about. So this virtual reality and augmented reality and high definition visual software these satanic rats have literally allow them to put anybody's physical representation inside of any visually made landscape, just like when you watch a movie. So that means your physical representation, what you look like from head to toe, and the sound of your voice can be put in a visual production, along with the visual representations of any amount of other people. And then those physical representations are put within any type of physical landscape. And then what they just do is just have these physical representations play out a role. Each one has their own role within the landscape. Okay, that revolves around a pre-created storyline, just like a movie. So when you hear Mike Fitzhugh-Bell state that they try and make him think that he's lost his keys and cannot find them, and he keeps searching for them, and they're mocking him about it. The reason why that's done is because when any person's brain is being victimized through mental abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, whatever, the brain instinctively will excite your defense mechanisms. And that's one of the main reasons why that's one of the many reasons why abuse is so prevalent in gang stalking crimes, is because they're trying to wear down the defense mechanisms, and they're trying to force the brain to evaluate anything that's made up concerning any and all types of victimization, because that's what the brain does. It's an instinctual response. You have no control over the defense mechanisms of your brain pertaining to how your brain will instinctively defend itself related to your thinking processes, your personality, your self-image, your emotional well-being, your spiritual beliefs, everything that makes you up as a person. Your brain is already aware of who you are as a person, because your brain is what houses who you are. So the brain's defense mechanisms, one of its main duties is to defend who you are in its entirety as a whole. That includes your self-image, your attitude, your thinking processes, your personality, your emotions, your beliefs, everything. Well, the filthy rats who created this crime know all that, and they take advantage of it. So when they put your physical representation in a dream, while they're trying to make you consciously believe that you've lost your keys, and everywhere you're looking for it, you can't find it, while you're being mocked about it and belittled about it, where they're trying to make you feel like an asshole just because you can't find your keys, and then they're having your physical representation look everywhere for them. What they're trying to do is to get your brain to access your memory bank for memory mapping, as your brain is in your unconscious state, you being asleep. So they can memory map your memories at the unconscious level. So they got to excite the brain into believing it needs a reason to access this memory as the brain is in the unconscious awareness. And they're wearing the defense mechanisms down so that the defense mechanisms do not, because sometimes your defense mechanisms in your brain will nudge your conscious state to evaluate, this is bullshit. Why would people be mocking me just because I've lost my keys? So if they can wear the defense mechanisms down by constantly mocking you about something, then your brain is going to be preoccupied in defending yourself at the unconscious level, and that will get in the way of your brain waking yourself up out of this electronic synthetic dream, because they need to keep you in the unconscious state. So what they're basically just doing is mentally and emotionally ping-ponging him back and forth in order to keep him in the context of this artificial created dream, so they can, until he tries to access his memory bank at the unconscious level. Alright, hold on one second. I gotta put my glasses on here for a second, because I think I just passed the 33-minute, 9-second mark. Alright, hold on. Let me see what I did here. I think I made a boo-boo. Okay, yes, I am past the 33-minute mark. So, let's assume for a second that once I reached 33 minutes and 9 seconds, I went into the second video, because that's what this memory cards usually do in this particular phone. So, let me reiterate the title of this video series. Remote neural monitoring, memory mapping, memory mapping stimulation, gang stalking crimes. So, in the first part of the video, just in case this video card, because, see, I didn't get a notification on my home screen, which I usually do when I'm making a video, when I reach the 33-minute, 9-second mark, that I have reached a certain gigabyte limit per video. Some SD cards only allow me to make 33-minute, 9-second long videos at a time, and other ones will just let me make an hour-long video. I can't tell if that's what this card is doing right now pertaining to this video, so I'm just going to assume it's automatically kicked into a second separate video. But whether it did or not, I'm just going to talk as if I'm just continuing from video 1. So, what you got to understand about gang stalking and remote neural monitoring, an additional thing you need to be aware of, is that these 6 satanic rats, they know that they love the favorite hemisphere that they like to latch on to the brain, through the brain with remote neural monitoring, is the right hemisphere, which is responsible for unconscious awareness. Okay? And you're unconscious when you're sleeping. But you should also know there's certain features and functions of the unconscious awareness that are also active when you're awake. Now, I believe one of the main reasons why they prefer to access the brain at the right hemisphere is because it makes it easier for them to slip in and neurally hack you in the right hemisphere, which is responsible for your unconscious awareness, because then you might not, it would be very hard for you to be able to consciously notice that you're being remotely neurally monitored if they're remotely neurally hacking you and the right brain, which is responsible for unconscious awareness. So meaning that you're not going to be consciously aware that they're neurally hacking you. Okay? You have to be very far into the program through experience and educated knowledge for you to mentally notice that you're being neurally hacked with remote neural monitoring. And that's only usually after a neural hacking session has started and or just completed. Okay, because you got to remember, when they're forcing anything they're processing in the brain through remote neural monitoring and or V2K and voice morphing, okay, and subliminal neural influencing, the brain will process it before the brain recognizes that it is a neural manipulation. Meaning that the brain is being forced to process the abuse, the trauma, and the neural manipulation before the brain will consciously recognize that it was a neural attack. And this very much benefits these 6 satanic rats, very much. And it's one of the main reasons why gang stalking victims are being set up all over the United States, everywhere, all over the country, every day by the thousands. Because remote neural monitoring is an extremely insidious technology. It is very hard to combat it in real time. You should also research remote neural influencing and remote neural monitoring. And that usually works including with integrated technology like voice to skull with voice morphing. Remote neural monitoring is also reported to be massively responsible for brain stimulation, stimulating certain brain states, including during staged events, while voice to skull with voice morphing can be used on you in order to get you to act out so they can set you up. Oh, absolutely, anywhere at any time. Now, let's get back to, for a minute here, concerning memory mapping and memory stimulation connected to remote neural monitoring. So, when we do our thinking, a lot of times when human beings do their thinking, when they're composing an internal thought, a lot of times memory references become part of that composed thought. Excuse me, please. So, I'm going to give you a fast example concerning that. Say if you're at work, and your boss gives you a project on Monday, and he kind of takes you through 5 steps of what needs to be done to complete that project. And so he says he's going to reapproach you by Friday to see how well you're doing in the project. So then by Wednesday, you're in the 3rd step of the 5 steps of the projects, and by Friday, you're already done with the 5th step. So when he approaches you on Friday, he's going to ask you about how you were able to complete step 1 through 3. So what your brain is going to do is your brain is going to recall through visual imagery and through dialogue as you're reviewing everything that was that made up you accomplishing step 1 through 3. It's going to instantly recall and use memory references, because when you engage in any action, just like when you go to make a ham sandwich or whatever, say you're going to your refrigerator to make a sandwich. You know how you like your sandwiches. As an example, let's say you want to make a salami sandwich with pepper jack cheese and mustard and a pickle and potato chips. Well, you know that's one of your favorite lunchtime materials. So when you're at the grocery store and you say to yourself, okay, well, what am I going to buy for lunch? Your brain will kick back that visual imagery of what you like. Okay, and so that will nudge your conscious mind to apply the language to the items you want that your visual imagery is showing you. The salami, the pepper jack cheese, okay, the mustard, the bread, and so on. So we can now see how visual memory references play a role in current thought composition. What the contents of an in real time thought as you're creating the thought. What do I want for lunch? Oh, salami with pepper jack cheese sounds great. So you go then over to the lunch meat aisle in the grocery store. So the memory reference of what you like for lunch and what those specific items are become part of that composed thought. And then you follow up on an action in order to buy what you want for your lunch, the salami and so on, and then you go pay for it, you go home, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So memory references play a huge role in our thought composition and even our verbalizations. The boss on Friday says, "How did you arrive? What did you do to work through step 1 through 3 pertaining to certain variables concerning how you put 1 through 3 together?" Your brain is going to recall those memory references of what you did in order to put 1 through 3 together, and then you're going to verbalize that. Okay, so gang stalking crimes know all about thought composition. They heavily rely on memory references. You should research memory anchoring and anchoring related to the sensitization method of gang stalking, dark neurolinguistic programming techniques of gang stalking, and the direct conversation method connected to gang stalking. Because memory anchoring plays a huge role, so whatever is anchored then can then become a trigger. In order for something to become a trigger, to trigger a mental and emotional response out of the victim, you first have to have something anchored and associated to the victim, to them. That way, whenever the anchor is represented, it triggers the same exact identical thought process based on the memory reference of the anchor. As an example, say on Tuesday, they stage an event and have someone assault you. As he's assaulting you, he's intentionally repeating, "Oh my God," and laughing at you as they're assaulting you. So, "Oh my God," and the laughing becomes an anchor and associated to the crime. On subsequent dates, they start then propping up a bunch of strangers along your routes and will repeat, "Oh my God," and laugh directly around you. That's going to then stimulate that memory reference of the original event of the assault. So that's called memory anchoring. That's how sensitization is formed. That's how they're able to remind the victim endlessly that you're being gang stalked every day by creating an initial act, creating anchors associated to that act, and then representing what was anchored along your routes every fucking day. Now that's done, but one of the main reasons why that's done is so that they can continue to have in real-time access to your memory centers of your brain for specific memory sets, visual memory sets, and for the sake of auditorial brain entrainment. Because the word "oh my God" and specific types of, let's just go with the word of phrase "oh my God," if you were to download a sound signal spectrum analyzer and repeat any word or phrase in that sound spectrum analyzer, you're going to see when you verbally compose and state "oh my God," that "oh" and "my" and "God," all three of those words have specific sound signal frequencies. Now that ends up actually related to many different things. It can be working in direct interface with brain implants, ear implants, ultrasonic sound bone conduction torture. While these words and phrases are processed within your brain for auditory brain entrainment, it's very sophisticated. I'm not going to get off into all that, but trust me, it's extremely relevant. Okay, so what I wanted to do in this particular video series, hold on a second, is to bring these things to your attention and to include the fact that visual anchoring and auditory anchoring is being done for the sake of visual and auditory entrainment, so that whatever is entrained can be continually reinforced as a direct result every time the stimuli that's associated to each entrained pathway, visual and auditorial, is represented. What it will do is it will reinforce that entrained pathway and the potentiated frequency output from it. Therefore, on subsequent dates, whenever that same stimuli is represented, the brain will recognize it. The potentiated frequency output from the entrained pathway that it's associated to will fire. Once it fires, remote neural monitoring will latch onto it. And that's how ultrasonic sound is a big part of the entrainment. You need to know that ultrasonic sound waves can also carry an offset carrier wave that's dedicated to visual. It's almost like a TV. The same way, if you ever watched that movie Contact with Jodie Foster, go watch that movie Contact. You can watch it through YouTube, $2 or $3.99. And one of the reasons why I try to showcase and discuss that movie a little bit in some of my exposures is because it's an immediate way for you to see in that movie when Jodie Foster first became aware of a sound signal from outer space. they were monitoring it on their spectrum analyzers, and they were able to determine the radio signal frequency that was carrying the sound wave, right? And then later on, they discovered that it had an offset carrier wave on it that was visual. That's how they were able to then take that offset carrier, bring up some monitors, and be able to decipher the visual imagery attached to that radio signal that was also auditorial. Well, ultrasonic sound can do the same thing. When ultrasonic sound is being processed in the brain, including non-stop ultrasonic sound bone conduction, an ultrasonic sound wave can also have visual waves on them. Now, once I become a little bit more educated concerning this, I'm going to be making more detailed, very fine-tuned statements about it, so you can have an immediate, layman's term, pictorial representation in your mind concerning it. Gang stalking crimes, the most simplest things that can be done in gang stalking, like the verbal harassment, the visual harassment connected to the sensitization method, when you first research that at Google and YouTube, you're just going to think a bunch of wild animals are using useful idiots to harass the victim with color coding and verbal and sound harassment just for the sake of harassing the victim. But you need to consider this and look at this with not just common sense, but also critical thinking. Why would a person and or group manage, because one gang stalking victim can be forced to see 100 stimuli in one day, just through the community-based harassment, and they can also experience 100 neural attacks a day through remote neural monitoring and voice-to-skull with voice morphing. Do you think that these people are getting up and doing this to each victim every single day, non-stop, including when they're sleeping? Because you can be visually entrained and auditorily entrained when you're sleeping, because they're using visual software that's got also audio connected to it. Whenever you're watching a movie, it's visual and auditorial. Whenever you're in a dream, you're seeing and hearing the makeup of the dream. That's visual and auditorial brain entrainment. So victims can suffer hundreds of neural attacks each day through remote neural monitoring and voice-to-skull with voice morphing, while they're forced to also see a lot of propped up visual and physical shit being propped up around them, concerning them, connected to gang stalking crime, propped up through the community-based harassment, and they can also be forced to hear things through community-based harassment. Non-stop repeated words and phrases, non-stop specific sounds like landscape noise, lawnmower noise, okay, airplane and helicopter noise, retrofitted mufflers, okay, car convoy noise harassment. Google all my statements. This is all of this on the surface will look like nothing but harassment. But when you hear an educated gang stalking victim break it down and expose to you additional things that are connected to it, you're going to start seeing the most sophisticated aspects for it, and then you're going to start to see the real motive behind it. Once you become brain trained, these wild, filthy whores, these criminally insane, mass-murdering, gang-raping animals can gain a neurological access of you anywhere. Because consider this. Say if they create an auditorial brain trained pathway based on airplane noise, based on landscape noise. Once they create the auditorial brain entrainment connected just to those two separate noises alone, research how sensitization is formed very carefully. Okay? Once they create auditorial brain entrainment to the sound of traffic, to the sound of retrofitted car mufflers, to the sound of helicopters, airplanes, landscape noise, then all they gotta do is prop up those noises anywhere around that victim. Plus, you also need to consider that these types of noises are also naturally going on in any environment. Therefore, when the brain recognizes it, hears it unconsciously around you, because your brain processes at the unconscious level, unconscious awareness, everything that's going on around you at any and all times. So if they sensitize you auditorily to airplane noise, and then an airplane goes by innocently or purposely, what that will do is excite and stimulate the potentiated frequency output of the auditorial trained pathway that's associated to that noise, and then the potentiated frequency output from that auditorial trained pathway will fire, and remote neural monitoring will latch onto it as a result of it firing. Okay, and then they can nearly hack you anywhere at any time, so that they can then, when they nearly hack you, they can nearly influence you, including to nearly influence you to set you up. How are you going to prove that they were able to gain a neurological access as a direct result of stimulating an auditory brain trained pathway and or a visually trained pathway to certain, because if somebody walks by you and engages in a physical gesture that you've been sensitized to, where visual entrainment has took place related to it? How are you going to prove that they were able to neurally hack you because the potentiated frequency output of that pathway fired when you noticed it? What you're noticing is the stimuli of it being intentionally propped up. How are you going to prove that somebody went by you and just because they put their hands to their face in a specific way that related to the visual entrainment caused the potentiated frequency output connected to that visually entrained pathway to fire? Remote neural monitoring then identifies it, locks onto you, and then can neurally influence you. How are you going to prove that somebody that went by and did that specific physical gesture intentionally, how are you going to prove they did it intentionally? Because the person just walked by you and did it, they're already fucking gone. Same thing concerning the landscape noise and the airplane noise and the fucking traffic noise, okay, and the car honking. Why do you think gang stalking picks so many things to sensitize a victim to that are related to things that are already naturally going on in the environment? Like coughing, clearing your throat, laughing, okay, clapping, okay, even sneezing. That's how bad this crime is. Literally, just Google my statements, baby cakes, related to the sensitization method. Lawnmower noise, landscape noise, airplane noise, helicopter noise, traffic noise. Because these are things that are naturally going on in the environment, and these are things that can be intentionally propped up in the environment, and then therefore they end up achieving their motive while the victim has no way to prove it. The only way they can prove it's being done are two separate ways. One, you go to a hospital, you find a doctor that's willing to listen to you, he hooks you up to an EEG machine, and then plays a tape recorder of the sound that you've been sensitized to. Then what will happen is that the EEG readout will show the EEG and emotional cluster frequency readouts showing that they are identical each time you are presented with that noise. That's the only way you can prove, because the EEG machine should read out a very strong potentiated frequency output signal when you are presented with that auditory stimuli. And the only other way is that if somebody admits it. And you do really believe that these sick, satanic, enslaving, mass-murdering whores are going to allow anybody to fucking admit anything, anywhere, at any time? Of course they won't. The only time that you're going to catch anybody admitting to anything is when a useful idiot that they use to prop up the sound and or visual stimuli is caught off guard and admits that somebody propped them up. But even that person won't know the real motive of why they're propped up. Because I've been pretty lucky. I've caught 7 different people admitting while I had a hidden tape recorder on me at the time, all 7 times, I have caught 7 different people in San Diego openly admit to my face that they were put in my physical presence to engage in physical gestures. One told me an SDPD officer told him to do it on November 20th, 2013. 3 UCSD students admitted it. 2 of them on UCSD campus, and another one at a bus stop right up the street from UCSD. And then I caught 3 teenagers admitting it after they got off the bus at the same time I did, and they were caught off guard, and I caught them admitting it. So, you know, and those videos, the one that was caught on November 20th, 2013, that's online. Just go to Google and type in 11/20/13. Learning disabled woman catches gang stalker admitting sent to harass. Okay, again. And then the other video is learning disabled woman catches gang stalkers admitting sent to harass. Read comments, which means read what's in the description of that video and cross-reference all dates to statements. So, you know, that's the only time you're going to catch somebody admitting to anything. Okay, is when you catch a useful idiot that they're using when they do something, and then you catch them off guard and they admit something. That's the only time you're going to get, and because the doctors and the hospitals and the medical clinics are completely controlled by these filthy whores. Go to Google and extensively research about how the following are massively implicated to be the main host of this crime: the NSA, the CIA, the DOD, the DIA, okay, the Department of Homeland Security, okay, state, county, and local police and fusion centers, along with DOD contractors. Okay, and so do you honestly think that a little person like the average citizen, okay, is going to be able to beat these types of agencies? I mean, this is a trade craft for these filthy whores. They already got this entire program completely protected from A to Z, meaning that the courts protect it, the judges protect it, the cops protect it, the prosecutors protect it. Anybody connected to the government is used to protect it, okay? The hospitals, medical centers, medical clinics, and even doctors and private practices are intimidated. Just research NSA letters and gang stalking. And the power of those criminal illegal appearing instruments and how they're used to protect this fucking crime. As well as the Patriot Act and the abuse of FISA courts and gang stalking. See, my fellow American citizens, if you imagine you being a father and your daughter just graduates high school and she wants to go to a well-known, seemingly highly respected university. And this crime is rampant on this university campus, a crime directly connected to rape, gang rape, human trafficking in the most extreme forms, okay? A crime that is infested on all university campuses all over the country, including colleges, even including high schools. I've even seen middle schools exposed to be connected to this crime. Would you, as a father, would you not want to know that this technology is in play in every neighborhood, in every town, city, county, and state in the United States, and in most environments, libraries, universities, banks, post offices, you fucking name it. A technology that allows these whores to use voice to skull with voice morphing to put an idea into anybody's head in their own voice print to get them to go anywhere at any time to set anybody up for rapes, gang rapes, murder, human trafficking, and much more. At you as a father, a loving, honest, healthy, responsible father, would you not want to know that this shit's going on? And this is where people like me come into play at. Because you really think these lying, organized crime, criminally insane animals in the system are going to tell you the truth? They ain't going to tell you jack shit. They're going to lie right to your face, my face. They'll lie in court without thinking twice about it. Because they just don't give a shit. At all. When have you ever known a human trafficker to get up and say, I'm sorry for what I've done and I'm going to tell you everything I know? Okay? Do you really think a government is ever going to tell you that it has sadistically tortured, murdered, and enslaved hundreds of thousands in the most satanic, demented, depraved ways that you can think of and could not? Stealing your own mind, stealing your own choices, your own self-determination, your own free will from you to set you up for the most extreme, horrific, heinous crimes that have ever been perpetrated in the entire history of the human family. Do you honestly think any government's going to admit that? So it's my goal to expose what I do for the sake of exposing it so people will know the truth concerning these criminal realities. Everybody, thank you for listening. Have a good day, and please research what I've stated.